Chapter 114 The Body Sect. Flashlight. Who would have expected Ma Rulong to use the Class 4 flashlight as his first move against a strong opponent? He used his actions to prove to everyone that the most appropriate weapon was the best weapon. Zhang Peng lost his sight, and his burst of forward momentum was halted. Using his left hand to cover his eyes, he quickly retreated using soul power. At the same time, the Heavenquake axe revealed an axe projection that protected his body. Compared to him, Ma Rulong seemed a little more relaxed. As the flashlight disappeared from his hand, he remained standing where he was. No one managed to see how he did it, but suddenly, more than 10 tiny light bullets rapidly flew out from his back. These light bullets did not fly directly towards his opponent. Instead, they sprayed out in all directions simultaneously. Following that, a loud explosion echoed from different directions on the competition stage. The light bullets may have looked small, but the explosive sounds that they generated were ear-piercing. Amidst the series of explosive blasts, Zhang Peng lost his composure. He frantically waved the Heavenquake axe about him, and even used his fourth soul skill to unleash more than 10 huge axe projections. Huo Yuao was watching very seriously below the stage. He wanted to know how the Sun Moon Empire's soul engineers fought their battles. As a soul master, he wanted to learn how soul engineers dealt with soul masters in battle. He had gained a lot of inspiration from the conversation between Zhang Peng and Ma Rulong. He was especially struck by Ma Rulong's words that only he could understand himself, and that he created his own soul tools. As the battle started, Ma Rulong quickly took the initiative. Huo Yuao did not think this was coincidental. Ma Rulong was strong, not in terms of his soul tool, but his accurate judgment of the situation. The first skill he used restricted his opponent's vision and hearing. This method was simply unheard of, so it was no wonder that Zhang Peng was tricked. Of course, the effect wouldn't be the same if this same method was used again. At this point, the soul tool on Ma Rulong's body showed another transformation. A golden cannon that was around a meter long and with a 3-centimeter caliber appeared on his shoulder. In the next instant, a streak of thin, blood-red light beam shot out. He maintained a natural and smooth impression as he controlled the soul tool. He did not stop from the start till the end. Almost instantly after the light balls were fired, this golden cannon had already appeared on his shoulder. The very next instant after Zhang Peng's fourth soul skill was completed, explosive bangs sounded all around, and that streak of blood-red light had already appeared before him. At the Soul Emperor level, one would develop astute senses. Zhang Peng was aware of the imminent crisis even though his sight and hearing were both greatly affected when the streak of blood-red light shot out. He subconsciously swung the Heavenquake axe horizontally in front of him and blocked the streak of blood-red light. There was no booming sound. A small red hole appeared on the Heavenquake axe after the blood-red light made contact with it. Although Zhang Peng had already shifted his body to dodge, the blood-red light still penetrated his left shoulder. A small, black hole was formed. Huo Yuao had never even heard of this type of soul tool before, much less seen it. What was more frightening was that after the red light penetrated through the Heavenquake axe and Zhang Peng's body, the defensive barrier created by 108 soul masters together was also penetrated. The air reeked of a burning smell wherever the red light passed. Zhang Peng groaned in pain, and his body shook tremendously. However, he had no intention of retreating even though his left shoulder had been pierced. He roared and flung the Heavenquake axe out again. This time, his most powerful sixth soul ring flashed with a bright radiance. Without a doubt, this wasn't a good opportunity to use his sixth soul ring, but Zhang Peng could not delay any further. His eyes were badly burnt by the flashlight. He was fully aware that his eyes wouldn't recover before this competition ended. His opponent also wouldn't give him a chance to regain his hearing. Even a small explosive sound was now enough to cause a severe disruption to his hearing. However, Zhang Peng did not just stand there passively. As he was struck, he also perceived where Ma Rulong was, and he flung the Heavenquake axe in that direction. Ear-piercing booming sounds rang out continuously as the huge axe spun rapidly in the air. Thick black light surged out maniacally from the Heavenquake axe and caused its size to rapidly expand. The thick black light was like a black hole that swallowed all the light around it. Even the spectators were petrified as they watched from afar. Ma Rulong also turned serious. He did not attempt to dodge. A strong suction force was being unleashed from the Heavenquake axe. Although this suction force was not enough to drag him over, it prevented him from moving from his current position. An indescribable, frightening power suddenly burst forth. Fissures appeared on the ground beneath Ma Rulong, and a strange, black circular symbol took form under his feet. Thick, black flames shot out from the ground. At this point, the pitch-black Heavenquake axe that had enlarged to twice its size descended from the sky as it carried a dazzling, black flare. The Heavenquake axe's sixth soul skill was the Dark Demon Heavenquake, which was a single target attack that drew the fires of hell to unleash the fury of heaven. Its demonic attributes allowed it to lock onto its opponents and destroy everything that was in its path. This was Zhang Peng's strongest strike. Although he had unleashed it with his sight and hearing impaired, as well as heavy injuries, he still managed to use this strike to lock onto his opponent. In terms of both his timing and judgment of the situation, both were defiantly fitting of a Soul Emperor. At that moment, a layer of blinding golden light surged out from Ma Rulong and covered his body. No matter how powerful the fires of hell were, they couldn't penetrate a single inch through that glow. The Heavenquake axe released a deafening growl, and the entire competition stage seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Thin cracks began to appear all across the golden barrier. This was an invincible barrier that could defend against an 8-ring soul Douluo for 3 seconds. It was a soul tool that could only be used once. However, this was on the verge of breaking against the Dark Demon Heavenquake's single target attack. Ma Rulong revealed a look of respect. The 3 seconds that the invincible barrier could be sustained were very short, but it was enough for it to withstand a blow of that caliber. The soul tool on his body changed again. More than 50 metal cannons of different sizes suddenly appeared on his body. Once again, no one could tell how he used the soul tools. It was as if they grew from his body. Zhang Peng did not give up either. As he had unleashed his strongest strike, he had immediately burst forwards towards Ma Rulong. With his connection to the Heavenquake axe, he could locate Ma Rulong's position. However, his left arm dangled limply beside him as he rushed forward. It was obvious that it had lost its use. The strange thing was that the hole in his left shoulder was not dripping with even a single drop of blood. After the 3 seconds were over, the Heavenquake axe returned to Zhang Peng's hands again. He was less than 10 meters away from Ma Rulong now. As he stepped forward, he lifted the Heavenquake axe, and several of his soul rings lit up. Zhang Peng believed that if he got close to Ma Rulong, he could control the result of this competition. Zhang Peng could not see for himself, but the spectators could. Just as both parties were about to come into contact, the metal cannons on Ma Rulong's body all shone with a splendid radiance. Unexpectedly, these metal cannons were each unleashed in a certain sequence. The first was a red cannon on his chest that was as big as a bowl. A red light ball silently shot towards Zhang Peng's sleeping body. However, everyone was stunned to see that Zhang Peng did not sense the red light ball coming towards him. It was as if his senses were being deceived. Following that, the red light ball gently stuck onto his chest. Zhang Peng did not seem to realize even at this point, but suddenly, his body seemed to solidify in that instant, and he froze in the air. Then, what greeted him were countless streaks of light that were assembled before being shut out. Besides a select few of higher cultivations who were aware of what had happened, the only other person who could see what had happened was Huo Yuao. Huo Yuao had watched the entire process through his sharp observation skills. He didn't know what that red light ball was, but he guessed that it was a special soul cannon that could hoodwink one's senses. It was not a simple soul cannon that concentrated soul power used by lower skilled soul engineers. The effect of that special soul cannon should have been its ability to temporarily make a person lose all mobility. The instant Zhang Peng was hit, the Heavenquake axe disappeared from his hands. Streaks of soul light rays assembled before shooting out, and Zhang Peng's body was sent flying. Although his internal soul power protected his body only stopped flying when he struck the defensive barrier on the other side of the arena. After struggling a little, he slid down from the barrier and fell onto the competition stage. The match had ended. Ma Rulong had obtained an overwhelming victory. The only thing he had sacrificed was the invincible barrier, but with his capabilities, he should be able to procure another one. High-level soul engineers were usually wealthy, not to mention that he was even from the illustrious Virtue Hall. After he finished watching the match, Huo Yuho let out a long breath. He didn't think that Ma Rulong was very scary. Rather, he was filled with excitement. This was a battle between a soul engineer and a soul master. The feeling that Ma Rulong gave off when he fought was a very natural and smooth one. Yes, it was a natural and smooth feeling. From the very start, Ma Rulong took the initiative. Following that, he relentlessly chained his attacks while reacting accurately to Zhang Peng's changes, using the most suitable soul tool to respond. He seemed to have achieved victory very leisurely. However, the truth was that he would have had to face the continuous attacks of his opponent if he messed up even a single chain attack. Zhang Peng's Dark Demon Heavenquake allowed one to see how frightening a Soul Emperor's explosiveness was. The entire place was struck with awe as Zhang Peng was defeated. Over on the Imperial Profound Academy's side, the faces of Zhang Peng's team members were filled with dismay. way. If even Jiang Peng couldn't defeat Ma Rulong, who else could? What was even more frightening was Ma Rulong's composure. His chest started to shine with a white halo immediately after he struck Jiang Peng. Without a doubt, it must have been the effect of some soul tool that was similar to the milk bottle. It was replenishing Ma Rulong's depleted soul power. The Imperial Profound Academy was stunned for a while before hesitantly sending a new team member up to the competition stage. However, what chance did they have left? Ma Rulong didn't display his strength any further. He only used the few soul tools that he had used before. Even so, no one could resist him with his precise control. According to Hua Yuao's observations, the only soul tool that could possibly be a class 7 soul tool was the golden cannon. The cannon shot out rays that were of extremely high temperature. These rays were so hot that even Ma Xiaodao's phoenix flames would be penetrated if they met. The referees even had to intervene in the following rounds of the competition to save the Imperial Profound Academy's team members. Ma Rulong eventually ended the remaining matches with his soul tools, and the Imperial Profound Academy dropped out of the tournament. The Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy reached the finals without a hitch. A lot had happened in this year's Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament, but it eventually was still the pair of old rivals that would meet in the finals, Shrek Academy and the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. Hua Yuao watched the entire competition carefully. On the way back to the Grand Imperial Star Hotel, he constantly pondered over something. Wang Yan was also doing the same. Hua Yuao was greatly moved by Ma Rulong's strategy and the entire competition process. Firstly, Hua Yuao learned that a soul tool created by oneself was the most appropriate soul tool to use. Ma Rulong had also showed Hua Yuao the strategy of a soul engineer. The key to Ma Rulong's successive victories lay in his control of the battle. They were stopped by two people when they were about to go up to their rooms after reaching the lobby of the Grand Imperial Star Hotel. Oh. Wang Yan was walking in front, but he was blocked. He was stunned, and lifted his head to look at the two people blocking his way. They were two men who looked very ordinary in terms of appearance, but their figures were very peculiar. One of them had an abnormally large right arm, whereas the other one was very thin, but his head was huge, as if he were a big-headed doll. Wang Yan felt a chill in his heart and said in a deep voice, "Excuse me." The guy with the huge right arm said, "All of you can go, but this little fellow must stay. We need to talk to him." This guy was growling. Although he was trying to restrain himself, he still released a terrifying, authoritative aura. He was pointing towards Hua Yuao. Hua Yuao was also stunned. "I don't know either of you." The big-headed guy looked at Hua Yuao and smiled slightly. He said, "Don't you know us now?" The look in his eyes was very strange. It was weirdly gentle. When Wang Yan and Shu Sanqi peered into his eyes, they went into a trance. Hua Yuao suddenly tensed up and golden light shone from his spirit eyes. Wang Dong was in a momentary daze, and a streak of odd radiance flashed in the depth of his eyes. He also wasn't confused by the big-headed guy's gaze. "We don't mean any harm. We just want to talk to you. If you don't want those around you to be hurt, follow us." The big-headed guy saw the shocked look in Hua Yuao's eyes and led the other guy to the resting area at one corner of the hall. There were a few sofas there for guests to rest. Wang Yan and Shu Sanqi woke up from their trance too. The two of them were astounded that the big-headed guy could force them into that trance. His cultivation must be above theirs. Wang Yan's abilities were nothing spectacular in Shrek Academy, but he was still a soul king. To be suppressed by someone else so easily, the gap in their abilities shouldn't be small. However, Wang Yan calmed himself down after a period of momentary shock. He nodded at Hua Yuao and said, "Go and hear what they have to say. I will follow you." Wang Dong, Shu Sanqi, the two of you can return to your rooms first. Wang Dong wanted to reject his proposition, but was dragged away by Shu Sanqi. Shu Sanqi shot a look at him, and Wang Dong finally understood what his intention was. It was obvious that Shu Sanqi wanted Wang Dong to follow him to get reinforcements. He only left indignantly upon realizing this. He even shot a look at Hua Yuao before he left. Wang Yan was a little amused as he said, "It's fine. You don't have to bring any reinforcements over. Since they have decided to intercept us here, they won't do anything. This is Douluo City, and also the place where all the competing members of the tournament are staying." Shu Sanqi chortled and replied, "It's better to be wary." As he spoke, he dragged Wang Dong up. Hua Yuao proceeded to the resting area with Wang Yan. There were only the two weird guys there. While there were many guests going into and out of the hotel, none of them went to the resting area. Hua Yuao and Wang Yan sat across from the pair of oddballs. Hua Yuao asked, "Why are the two of you looking for me? It must be my first time seeing the both of you." The big-headed guy smiled and nodded. He answered, "Of course, but we've observed you for quite some time already. If I'm not wrong, your first martial soul, which is also your main martial soul, must be your eyes, and your first soul skill must be something related to spiritual detection, and you can even share it with your compatriots. Through some special method, you've also managed to cultivate some kind of shock ability with your spirit. Based on my judgment, it's like the purple demon eyes from the Tang Sect, whereas your second soul skill from that martial soul should be something to do with bewitching others. I recall an ice worm from the north that uses such an ability to hoodwink its opponents. Am I right?" The big-headed guy was called Lanya. His simple words caused a chill to go up Hua Yuao's spine. The feeling of being seen through seemed to have left him completely exposed in front of the other party. Fortunately, he was resilient. Although he was shocked, he did not say, "How did you know?" Upon seeing Hua Yuao's shock, the big-headed guy continued, "Let me introduce myself. My name is Lanya. This is my brother, Utao. We are both from the body sect. I'm sure you've heard of the body sect before." Not only did the words body sect leave Hua Yuao horrified, but Wang Yan also opened his eyes wide, and his pupils shrank. Although the body sect rarely appeared in the world of soul masters, they were still very reputable. Among the few strange existences in the world of soul masters, evil soul masters undoubtedly took the top spot. And in terms of peculiarity and power, only the body sect could match up to the evil soul masters. Furthermore, the body sect was even more scary than evil soul masters in the eyes of most soul masters. While evil soul masters were powerful, they often appeared alone or in small groups. The body sect was a true sect. It was called the most mysterious sect in the world too. It was conceivable how many venerated the powers of the body sect. Hua Yuao and Wang Yan could never imagine people from the body sect appearing in front of them because of the rarity with which they revealed themselves. But now they had come specifically for Hua Yuao. Wang Yan could figure out what they wanted without even asking them. But the strange thing was that he didn't seem very nervous. Wang Yan smiled at Hua Yuao and said, "I shall not be around the bush any further. We are here to bring you back to the sect." "Bring me back?" Hua Yuao was stunned. He had never joined any sect before. Lanya nodded and replied, "We're bringing you back. The body sect is the home of all soul masters with body souls. Since your eyes are your martial soul, it means you're part of the body sect. And since we found you, it's only natural that we bring you back." Although Hua Yuao had heard of the body sect a few times before, they were filled with mystery and power. Without a doubt, joining the body sect would be very beneficial to his spirit eyes. But could he trust these two guys who had appeared so suddenly? Even if they could be trusted, could he just leave Shrek Academy? Without much consideration, Hua Yuao shook his head determinedly and said, "Thanks for your offer, but I'm a student of Shrek Academy and a member of Shrek. At the very least, I won't consider joining any sect before I graduate from the academy." Lanya laughed indifferently and said, "Shrek Academy? The best academy. However, they don't seem too impressive. Otherwise, they wouldn't have let someone as young as you compete. The body sect is the most familiar with body souls, and we're the most suited to guide you to become the best. With your talent, you will shock the entire world of soul masters within 20 years. Although the body sect rarely reveals itself, we will be an unstoppable force once we do so. Your martial soul hasn't experienced its second awakening, and you have yet to experience the true power of a body soul. Following us back will only be beneficial to you." It was probably only the body sect that was capable of snatching personnel right under the nose of a Shrek Academy teacher. Wang Yan, however, did not say anything, and only listened in on their conversation. Hua Yuao continued to shake his head. "No, Shrek Academy is my home. The academy has given me family warmth. They have nurtured me. I won't join the body sect. Elders, I'm sorry, but we shall end things here." As he spoke, he stood up before turning away and walked towards the stairs. "Do you think you're the one calling the shots?" Wu Tao suddenly stood up. As he stretched out his right hand, his thick right arm instantly caught hold of Huo Yuao's shoulder. His right arm seemed able to stretch itself freely. It had stretched out almost 2 meters when Wu Tao grabbed Huo Yuao's shoulder. Lang Ye turned his attention to Wang Yan the moment Wu Tao made a move. He wanted to use his powerful martial soul to suppress Wang Yan and prevent him from doing anything, but he was shocked to realize that Wang Yan remained calm and had no intention of doing anything. The instant Wu Tao's hand landed on Huo Yuao's shoulder, Huo Yuao shrugged his shoulder and slipped out of Wu Tao's grip. What a slimy kid. Wu Tao was stunned for a moment as he felt a gust of chill rising the moment he grabbed hold of Huo Yuao's shoulder. After that, he could see that a layer of ice that resembled armor was now coating Huo Yuao's shoulder. Although it seemed like ice, it was very tough and slippery. Otherwise, Huo Yuao wouldn't have slipped out of his grasp. Using your spiritual detection on me won't work. Lang Yus nodded and straightened his gaze. A wave of formless undulation spread from his huge head. Huo Yuao only felt that his spiritual detection was crushed like glass. As he groaned in pain, he staggered forward. However, his spiritual sea started to ripple with intense undulations as it was invaded by the enemy. His pearl of life that belonged to the life guardian flashed brightly. Lang Ya's spiritual power surged into Huo Yuao's head and threatened to invade his spiritual sea. But then, a green glow flashed across Huo Yuao's forehead. Following that, Lang Ya's spiritual power was cut to pieces. Oh. Lang Ye was shocked at this. Although he had held back a little for fear of hurting Huo Yuao, he was sure that Huo Yuao wouldn't be able to resist him. He immediately thought that Huo Yuao's body soul must have already been awakened. However, how could his body soul awaken if it couldn't awaken on its own and if he didn't have the body Sect special manual? Just as he was about to increase the output of his spiritual power, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Wu Tao. A dirty index finger pressed against Wu Tao's back. Yes, it pressed against his back. When that finger rebounded, it gave off an illusory feeling. Wu Tao tried to dodge, but he realized to his horror that he was unable to dodge even though he was being guided by Lang Ya's spiritual power. Pop. I-O. Wu Tao's right arm bounced up, and his entire person staggered backward 2 steps. A depressed finger mark was left on his thick right arm, which caused him to turn pale. Although he did not unleash his martial soul, his right arm was his martial soul since he was a member of the body Sect. He was forced back by a finger from his opponent under such a circumstance. His shock was greater than the pain he felt. On the other side, Lang Yu also retracted his spiritual power. He was cautious as he watched the newcomer who had suddenly appeared behind Huo Yuao and separated him and his brother. Huo Yuao had also turned his body quickly by now. After a momentary daze, he revealed an intense look of surprise. Elder Sun, you're back. That's right. The person who had just appeared between Huo Yuao and the 2 body Sect members was an elder of Shrek Academy's Sea Gods Pavilion. Elder Sun. Elder Sun appeared as slovenly as ever. His enormous, oily hands were holding that familiar drumstick, and he carried a look of ridicule amidst the calmness in his eyes. He spoke as he looked at the 2 men from the body Sect. We won't tolerate your nonsense. It's so ridiculous how people dare to climb over Shrek's head. The 2 of you are brilliant. You dare to poach our student. Who are you? Lang Yu was obviously the one in charge among the 2 from the body Sect. At the same time, his aura became more authoritative. With his head as the center, the surrounding air up to a radius of 1 meter started to distort furiously. What was even more daunting was that he exerted all this increased pressure on Elder Sun. He was able to do all this without unleashing his martial soul. This revealed his immense control over his own abilities. Elder Sun snorted. Are the 2 of you from the 2nd or 3rd generation of the body Sect? That old freak from your body Sect wouldn't dare to stand so close to me if he were here. Yet the 2 of you dare to. The rare strands of yellow hair on Lang Ya's head trembled a little. The distorted air around him dispersed, and his aura declined. He was shocked as he asked, "You're from the Sea Gods Pavilion. Since the 2 of you know about the Sea Gods Pavilion, you better scram." Elder Sun replied indifferently, "On account of that old freak, I won't fuss over today's matter. You're still not up to it yet. I'm scared that old freak will accuse me of bullying the juniors." Wu Tao's right arm was still in pain, and he groaned furiously. "Don't think of bluffing us with your words. At least prove it to us." As he spoke, his right arm extended quickly again, ballooning in size, and 8 soul rings suddenly appeared. The appalling thing was that his first 4 soul rings were purple 1,000-year soul rings, and from the 5th soul ring on, they were black. He had 4 purple and 4 black soul rings. Not only did his soul rings carry a tremendous oppressive power, but they even superseded the ratio of soul rings that ordinary soul masters had. Elder Sun acted as if he didn't see it. When Wu Tao extended his palm toward him, no one could see his actions clearly before his hand was stopped. He was in a daze as he stood there, and his eyes were filled with fear. A chicken drumstick had been forced into his mouth. The drumstick's bone was at the tip of his throat, such that his throat would be pierced through if more strength were exerted. Furthermore, this drumstick had broken all of his teeth before it had entered his mouth. At this point, his lips were forced in, and all of his teeth had been crushed by a chicken drumstick. Lang Ye couldn't even help him in time. Elder Sun was too quick. If Wu Tao were bolder in his actions, he might have been able to strike Elder Sun, but the drumstick would have killed him too. That's why he did not dare to move, and only stood there in a daze. Lang Ye was not doubtful at all now. You are Taddy from the Sea Gods Pavilion." Elder Sun darted a look at him. "Scram. Tell that old freak that I can still eat, drink, shit and sleep. Thank you, Elder, for your mercy." This time, Lang Ye became respectful. He slapped his hand behind Wu Tao's back, and Wu Tao spat out his broken teeth in the drumstick. The 2 of them turned and left the Grand Imperial Star Hotel in an instant. As he watched their leaving figures, Huo Yuao respectfully said in a hurry, "Thank you, Elder Sun." Elder Sun waved his hand and said, "You are a member of Shrek. Whoever dares to harm you is going against Shrek. Return first and take the time to cultivate. Don't waste a second. I will be watching your finals." "Yes." Huo Yuao was slightly surprised and excited. He turned and walked towards the stairs. At this point, everyone from Shrek had descended from the stairs. Ma Xiaotao led the group, and she drifted over quickly. "Where are those 2 fellows? I will roast whoever dares to bully my younger brother." Ma Xiaotao's rage and domineering aura were revealed. However, she stopped as she saw Elder Sun. "Elder Sun." Ma Xiaotao stuck her tongue out. She naturally knew Elder Sun's status in the academy. Elder Sun laughed and said, "All right, all of you can return to rest now. I will handle this matter." "Okay." Ma Xiaotao dragged Huo Yuao away before she turned and left. Her actions made her seem like a hen protecting her chicks. The rest of the team wore weird looks in their eyes as they saw her and couldn't help but gossip about what had happened between Ma Xiaotao and Huo Yuao yesterday. All the students left, but Wang Yan remained. "Elder Sun, the body Sect. They're troublesome." Elder Sun said in a deep voice. "If we'd known, we wouldn't have sent this fellow to compete. Not only is that old freak from the body Sect dominant in terms of his powers, but he's also a dominant person. I don't think this can be settled so easily, but I don't think they dare to test us anymore. I will return to Shrek Academy immediately. I should be able to rush back before the final. I hope that he acts slower. He's also capable of doing anything, and never resorts to logic. Huo Yuao also possesses a body soul, which will spur him to do anything. Why is he not dead even though he's older than me by 30 years? Handle the situation over here well. There must not be any casualties. Do you understand?" "Yes." Wang Yan acknowledged respectfully. "What? Body Sect?" Ma Xiaotao immediately interrogated Huo Yuao as she dragged him into the room. Huo Yuao did not conceal the truth either. Everyone from Shrek was in the room too. After hearing the words body Sect, Wang Dong, Xia Xiao, Jiang Nanan and even Hikeitu were only stunned, but the rest were extremely horrified, including Ma Xiaotao. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.